What if Ultra NECROZMA was in Gen 1 Ubers? This is a very interesting video to do because stats like these are just absolutely insane, even for Uber standards. And the Dragon type is kind of useless. One might even say worse than useless. Because being weak to Blizzard, when Mewtwo's using Blizzard more than ever, that's not good. In general, there's a lot of really good and also really weird things going on with the NECROZMA here. I'm going to start off with that speed. 129 under any other circumstance is fantastic. You outspeed basically everything. And with Gen 1, that crit rate is just insane. I'm pretty sure it's like 20... I think it's like 25 or close to that range. Just across the board. Like a really good thing to have. But you're one speed point lower than Mewtwo. Which is... You cannot believe how unbelievably tragic that is. There's actually one example I can think of where a Pokemon was one speed point below and it just kind of ruined everything. And that was Walking Wake. Walking Wake was 109 speed, and funny enough, also a Dragon type. And being one speed point lower than Tauros just inherently put that way more in Tauros' favor. And that's the same thing here. But even worse because, as you may expect, Mewtwo is a little bit more dangerous than Tauros. And also, Walking Wake had no weaknesses, while the NECROZMA has a weakness to Ice, which Mewtwo absolutely could take advantage of. Heck, even if things go wrong, Mewtwo's have been using Self-Destruct more than ever now. So even if the Mewtwo gets, like, disrupted or something goes bad, like let's say it misses a Blizzard, and the NECROZMA gets a crit Earthquake, you can still go for Boom. Which, I don't think kills the NECROZMA without a crit, but still, it's... Yeah, that's one of the things I wasn't really expecting to be a problem going into this. And to be fair, it's more so a problem for 1v1 replays. Obviously, when I do these, the Pokemon's at full HP, and there's no other teammates. That's not really the case if you're playing a proper game. The NECROZMA gear is actually significantly better when you have teammates, and when this thing can be sent out late game. That's actually the reason why I think it's proper moveset. If you give it signature moves, it's Photon Geyser, Earthquake, Hyper Beam, and Prismatic Laser. Being able to hit super hard on the physical and special side, and then having a Hyper Beam for both a physical and special side, is really great. And you definitely have the stats to back it up. Not counting things like Cloyster with its defense stat, or probably Mega Pokemon I've covered. I think 167 might just be some of the single most highest stats I have ever seen. And keep in mind, it's Gen 1, so everything has max stats, which is even better when you have 97 in HP and defenses. Everything is bulky as heck, and it's fast as heck too. Like, look at this, like 398 in HP with like 293 in defenses. And I know I said the Dragon type isn't really that great, but having a resistance to electric and fire is actually pretty good. And having a resistance to psychic is great. And thankfully, that first type you have is honestly really good to have. Especially since you have stab with it. And even if we just had RBY moves, I think the NECROZMA would still be really good. So as long as... It's kind of weird if you try looking up the NECROZMA in the team builder, it only shows Moongeist Beam and Steel Strike. Or Sun Steel Strike, but I don't think it matters too much. I think NECROZMA Ultra should have the exact same moves as all of the other forms. So something like Psychic, Swords Dance, and then Earthquake and Hyper Beam, that's already really good. And then one of these you can very easily replace with Thunder Wave if you wanted to. Speaking of which, here are some of the secondary moves you can use. There's practically no reason to use Sunsteel Strike or Moongeist Beam, so that's why I didn't really include them here. But Sword Stance is It's kind of good, but also with how fast you are and with how hard you hit naturally, I think you mostly don't need it. Paralysis, on the other hand, is legitimately a really good thing to have. And you wish you could just use it alongside your other 4 attacking moves. Because some things like Mewtwo and Mew go significantly more in your favor if you have paralysis. Things like Chansey and Starmie, these things are way more doable if they're paralyzed as well. But to be honest, considering in practice you are going to have 6 teammates, I think even though Thunder Wave is very good and really tempting and promising, it can absolutely win you some games. I think for NECROZMA, Ultra NECROZMA at least, you're much better off just having team support and having other Pokemon paralyzed Pokemon before this thing even comes out in the field. And once it does come out in the field, oh my gosh, especially if things are already at half HP and paralyzed, major threat. In fact, when it comes to ranking all 4 NECROZMA forms, I think it's very nuanced on which is the best one. And to be honest, I am really glad I did this. I did this once with the Rotoms, where I tried doing the Rotoms individually, and that was a bad idea, because most of them ended up being mostly the same. But thankfully, all 4 versions of the NECROZMA, if they were put in Gen 1 Ubers, would all be very different from each other, and have their own strengths and weaknesses. And I think that's cool. By the way, if you're watching this around the time where it first came out, this is my 300th what if scenario, not counting some ones that have unlisted or deleted. So, before going on to the replays, I would really like to thank you all. It is amazing to me that over 2 years, I have managed to find a real audience on YouTube, and that I still have serious, like, obvious Pokemon I haven't done yet. Like Heatran. I haven't done Heatran yet. Haven't done Moeta Fighting. Haven't done some other very obvious Pokemon. And I look forward to making more of these. I also look forward to hanging out with you more in my community. Because lately my Discord server has been way more active, both when it comes to Pokemon and non-Pokemon related activities. And I love you to be there. Even if you're just lurking, or if you just say hi occasionally, I don't mind. Even if you don't say anything, I just get really happy when I get notified that someone new just joined the server. So feel free to interact with us. It's a lot of fun. But for now, let's get right into the replays. Starting off with the King of Ubers himself, and we have a few replays here, and unfortunately, most of them really don't go well. Even with a crit, Hyper Beam does not kill you. I mean, not kill Mewtwo. If a critical Hyper Beam killed you, you would probably die if Ultra NECROZMA wanted you dead. Just letting you know right now. In case you're coping and thought you can invest in a special defense. But yeah, the one speed point lower than Mewtwo really does complicate a lot of things. It also doesn't help that Mewtwo itself is a really good status for, or spreader for paralysis. So, just as easily, you can just get boned that way as well. Honestly, it's part of the reason why I just don't think Sword Stance is worth it. I just think there's just not a safe opportunity to really go for it. And even if it's like Mewtwo that has Amnesia and 2 attacking moves and recover, which isn't always what you do anymore. Or actually, if anything, it might be worse, because I think you're still using Blizzard over Ice Beam. Honestly, I've been amazed with how much I've been learning about Ubers for these past 4 days and these past 4 videos. Seems like Ubers has changed a lot since when I first learned about it. Especially when it comes to how Mewtwo and Mew themselves are used. It's honestly kind of cool. But not so much for NECROZMA here. It definitely suffers a lot more. Thankfully for Mew, I think the match is way more even. Granted, for some of these replays, we have NECROZMA using Thunder Wave. But in this case, it both have Sword Stance and they have Paralysis. I think it's mostly fine. Or granted, like, it also really depends on your moveset. I forgot to say earlier, but like Photon Geyser? Or Geyser, sorry. Photon Geyser. It's a 100 base power psychic move, which obviously is special. But if you have higher attack, then it can actually become physical. I don't think it matters as much for NECROZMA, because I think out of all the forms, it's the least likely to use Sword Stance. But it's a neat trick to have. But to be honest, with Earthquake, it probably does most of the job anyways. Oh wait, I kind of forgot to talk about a real funny move called Prismatic Laser. I briefly mentioned it. You'll see it more later, but yeah, Psychic Hyper Beam with 160 special attack. It's really good. And honestly, even if the NECROZMA doesn't have, what's it called? Thunder Wave, the fact that it's faster and has a better crit rate, it still makes the matchup with Mew pretty even. So I think that's kind of good. Now we have Snorlax, and Snorlax, honestly, the NECROZMA, Ultra NECROZMA probably suffers the least. Maybe base form the Beyblade. Actually, no, I'll take that back. I forgot Dawn Wings just completely walls it. So there's not much to really say here. Snorlax is still a pretty big threat. It can go for paralysis with Body Slam if it wants to fish for it. But most likely, you're better off just going for straight self-destruct. Which thankfully you survive, but it's really not easy. And for Executor. Now, for this replay, I decided not to go for Sword Stance to see if NECROZMA can win through sheer attacking power. Which is kind of awkward considering Executor resists Psychic and Ground. But on the same side of the coin, I guess you can say, Executor only has Explosion. Because Psychic is resisted and you don't really use Double Edge and Mega Drain in Ubers. It's the most popular set is definitely just dual status. So you know what? I think I might just call it a great matchup, all things considered. Because Executor really has no business staying in. And neither does Tauros. Did that go too fast for you to see? Let's look at that again, shall we? So we have Tauros. And then Prismatic Laser just Okos. Straight Okos. You do not stand a chance. Yeah, that is wild. Okoing Tauros. It's honestly very terrifying. Now, this is the part that kind of sucks, unfortunately. Out of all four NECROZMA forms, Ultra NECROZMA is the one that suffers the most. And the reason should be obvious. It cares about paralysis way more than the others, since its speed is a big reason why you use it. And that Ice weakness is super bad. I don't know how common Ice Beam chance usually is. If I had to guess, Seismic Toss is way more popular. But I do not think that would be the case if Ultra NECROZMA in the format. Maybe it still is if the other forms are also there, but Ice Beam is a great tool to have against NECROZMA. But at the same time, crits can really mess you up. Like, does Chansey really stay in if there's a 1 in 4 chance Hyper Beam just gets the Oko? Hard to tell. Also, with things like Paralysis and Sword Stance, that also just helps you do really well. Being able to be faster definitely gives you an advantage. So, that's pretty nice. Honestly, though, I don't think the Ice weakness is really gonna hamper you too much. Neither do I think Paralysis or losing the Mewtwo will either. In fact, despite having probably the most glaring weaknesses outside of maybe Duskmane with its weakness to Fire Blast and Earthquake, I think Ultra NECROZMA is actually up there with Dawn Wings and just being super easy to get banned. And like, in case you're wondering, as you see here, Earthquake doesn't get the Oko. And Photon Geyser does not get the Oko either. So you need Prismatic Light in order to Oko Gengar. And that's not the most unreasonable thing in the world. Because there's not too many things that really want to switch into it. Mewtwo and Mew maybe, so you have to be careful with that. But Ubers is all about trying to cheese the way to kill their Mewtwo and Mew first. So I don't think you're going to be changing your team building too much. And here's Rhydon. Geyser doesn't kill, and neither does Earthquake at full HP. Prismatic Light definitely does, but you might just be better off just going for one of your physical moves and hoping for a crit. Considering Rhydon only does a third anyways, it probably doesn't even stay in and risk it. And then Slowbro. The replay you're going to see here is going to be one where it's like the best case scenario for Slowbro, where you only have 4 attacking moves, and you don't have Sword Stance, nor do you have a way to paralyze with like Thunder Wave or something. And even with that, even with Slowbro having like the speed advantage, it still kind of had an annoying time here. And this is going to be with the NECROZMA that is getting abysmally unlucky. I'm pretty sure I only got like 1, maybe 2 crits with this NECROZMA. It was just not having a good time, which really sucks and is really annoying. But you know what? Here's a rare case where that dragon type actually helps you out. Look at that. Surf is only a 3-hit KO, even with max special. That is honestly really good. And to be honest, I think with the NECROZMA in the format, I think Slowbro in general falls way more on the viability ranking. Because I think there's just less of a win con here to go for max special when both Mewtwo and the NECROZMA in their own right can be very annoying and threatening to you. Same thing with Mew. Unfortunately though, the crits were not enough for this one. That's only because he only got like 2. And any other set would have just automatically won. If the NECROZMA had Sword Stance, it could have outdamaged and killed Slowbro. And if it also had Thunder Wave, more often than not, it probably would have, given the NECROZMA at least 1 turn into a breathing room. So even though Slowbro won in this replay, this was really the best case scenario for Slowbro. In general, I think it's way more in the NECROZMA's favor, and up to where I would probably put it in good matchups. And then Zapdos is even better. You're not immune to Electric, unfortunately, but at the same time, you don't take too much from Drill Peck. And the NECROZMA is very easily able to kill you with Geyser and Prismatic Light. Granted, crit might have mattered there, but I'm pretty sure it didn't. I'm pretty sure a 167 base or move from 160 base power. I worded that so bad, I'm so sorry, but you get the point. Psychic move hit hard. Make big boom. Hopefully we have the point across now. Alright, now we have Jinx. And this one's pretty straightforward. You don't OHKO it, but they don't OHKO you. Both of you can kill each other with a crit. So be super careful and don't try to kill a Prismatic Laser. Even though Jinx isn't the bulkiest, it does not die to that. It only takes like, or to be fair, it almost takes 40, so the damage is still impressive in its own right, given Jinx's high special. And then for Starmie, most of Starmie's sets just lose. Thunderbolt, Psychic, and Surf are just resisted. There's only one move that can seriously damage Starmie, and that's damage a NECROZMA, and that's Blizzard. But you gotta be very careful with Blizzard, because NECROZMA here can hit pretty hard even without Sword Stance. I think I'll still be nice and call it quickly either way. Looking at this again, it's looking even less in Starmie's favor, to be honest with you. Alright, we're almost done, and now we have Dragonite. And Dragonite's kinda interesting. What wasn't interesting is having to make 11 replays, because 10 of them in a row had the NECROZMA critting immediately. But Blizzard doesn't do enough damage, unfortunately. And I don't even think Dragonite really uses Blizzard. I'm pretty sure its moveset in Ubers is more like Agility, Thunder Wave, Wrap, and Hyper Beam. Although I do think that Blizzard does become more viable with NECROZMA in the format. So worth considering. I don't have any replays with Arrow or Hypno or Golem. I decided to make one more with a B- Pokemon, that being Sandslash. But if Rhydon doesn't have any business beating the NECROZMA, I guess Sandslash by technicality has it better, since it's not weak to Earthquake, but not really helping you. Alright, here's the tier list. And it's weird. Despite actually having a Pokemon in bad matchup with Mewtwo, I feel like Ultra NECROZMA is a problem. Maybe even more of a problem than Dawn Wings. Because right before I made this video, a few hours ago, I was in a call with my council member, Sotina. And we were talking about the NECROZMA forms. And I talked about how I thought Dawn Wings was probably the best. But she brought up how Dawn Wings is probably much better in 1v1 replays versus actually like having a fight and contribute in a 6v6 battle. And the NECROZMA, Ultra NECROZMA, is the opposite really. Ultra NECROZMA becomes significantly better in a 6v6 environment. Once the opponent's team is exhausted and they're paralyzed or half HP, take out Ultra NECROZMA and it's gonna sweep. So I didn't think I would say this. I thought there was a possibility, but now I'm starting to think that it's actually maybe Ultra NECROZMA that would be banned to anything goes. And if I had to rank the order now, I think I'm ranking it Ultra NECROZMA at the top, then Dawn Wings, then Base, and then Duskmane. But all are incredibly good in their own right. Although, the four of them having to compete for Species Clause, that is interesting, and does maybe make Dawn Wings and Ultra NECROZMA either more viable or just less oppressive if it has competition with the other forms. And even then, all of the forms in their own right are very versatile with their movesets. That's pretty cool. And so was this one a miniseries I did. I'm now at 20, or not 20, I'm at 1,200 subscribers, and like I said, I'm now at 300 uploads, at least in the playlist. And thank you guys so much for the support. It has been the world to me, and it's been a lot of fun making these. Now, the Infinite Fusion Tournament's still going on. So, starting tomorrow, I'm going to start making videos on that and updating them. And I'm going to try to format it like my What If videos. This should be pretty cool. But until then, thank y'all for watching. This is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.